everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Mercedes Lucke-Benedict Show. And tonight we have an incredible guest. Totally love this girl, or girl, lady. What are we going to call you? I think we'll call you a girl. But we have Tessa Mauro from the Paranormal Prowlers podcast. Now say that 3 times. Paranormal Prowlers podcast. I mean, Tess, that's like the coolest name ever. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Mercedes. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm actually doing pretty good today. It's been a little bit of a challenging couple of weeks, but I'm here, and I just was so looking forward to talking with you. Because we met. Gosh, I was trying to think, Tessa. When was I on your show last year? Or was it the year before? Do you remember?
I believe it was last year. Yeah, okay. I think it was earlier last year.
You know what? Last year was a long year. I mean, like, yeah. That was like this really, really long year. And I did a lot of shows, and I was like, did I all do them all in that one year? So I absolutely love your show. So can you talk a little bit about, because we've got a really nice audience here on this channel, Web Radio Network, and we're streaming live on Spreaker. So I'm really excited that we've got some live stream listeners out there. So Tessa, for those that may not know who Tessa Mauro is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, how dare you not know who I am? I'm huge. Just kidding, totally. I'm Tessa Mauro. I first started off having a worldwide radio show on KICH radio, and my friend JC just opened this opportunity for me to have a show talking about all things paranormal, something I'm very passionate about. And then I was grateful for that, and I was with them for about 2 years, but then I just kind of wanted something more. I really love the podcasting world because you're able to see where your listeners are coming from, and the cities and the countries. And so actually April 10th of this year will be 4 years that I've had my podcast, Paranormal Prowlers podcast. And I couldn't be more excited about it. As you know, you could be so creative with your own show. It's your baby. You could do you. And, I've done everything from cursed items to haunted locations and interesting people like Houdini, and having awesome people like you on. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Wow. One of my questions was to ask you how long you've had this podcast. So let's step back a little bit before that. So you were on what was the radio show that you were on that was before that?
Yeah, it was the Paranormal Prowlers talk show. And That was on worldwide radio. And I was always like in the number 1 spot, but I always wanted to know, like, how many listeners is there? And just kind of some answers that I wasn't able to get. And I totally get that, but like I said, yeah, podcast kind of gives you a bit more answers. And so in the 4 years, I've had almost 90 countries listening to me, and wow. I just keep going from there. And I keep count. I totally do that. I'm such a nerd for that, but I love it. I love knowing the cities and the states and the countries, and yeah, total podcast nerd.
That is so great. And I remember seeing something that you just posted the other day, and you were talking about your listeners, and I thought, I love how you do that. And what I just love about you, and I made the little promo, and I picked pictures and things that you're just so cute. The way your book, you've got your eyes popped out, like, and then you're in the picture I'm looking at right now. Well, you're in the coffin at Tombstone.
Yes.
And promo. So if people see the promo, which I'll put that on YouTube, I think I did already, but I'm not sure. But it's so cute because I just think that's what really stands out to me about you, is because you really take that it's like a different level. You take it to a different level because it's almost like Abbott and Costello meet the Frankenstein, like into a zany type of fun, but it's very serious too. You're very. So what made you choose to take it into that kind of a fun, old school type, radio show atmosphere?
Well, it took probably about a year into my podcast where I started using sound effects. I just was really curious about it, so I started looking them up, and I found a few apps where it has everything from a wolf howling to burps to just everything in between. And so I kind of have my favorites, and that's the thing about my podcast is I got to give you props for always going live. I did it with my radio show, and it was like, oh my God, but with the podcast, I'm able to kind of stop and pause and put stuff in here and there. And so, yeah, I actually just recorded an episode today about Dead Man's Island in England. And yeah, I threw in a bunch of things in there, and so it's fun. I just it's different, and I love the whole voice changing. So when I'm talking as a man, I change the voice to a man. And my mom, she was like, oh my God, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I really thought it was a guy, but now that I know it's you, I feel like it was like a drag queen. I was like, oh, thanks, Mom.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, no, I'm telling you, I love it. When I first started listening to what you're doing, I was like, wow, this is so great, because you do add these, these fun things into it, and it really gives that atmosphere. And so even when I listened to mine, when we did two, I guess it ended up being two shows with me, but it was so cool to listen to, and I need to go back and re-listen. But what I think is interesting is not only do you put the sound effects in, but you're actually can catch actual sounds that are coming through. Is that? And so I think that's like, wow, you can almost hear, like you say, listen, you can hear something in the background, and you can.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was like, did you, just because you're able to hear it being an investigator, you were able to start hearing things?
Well, I do have what I like to call that EVP ear. I think all of us as paranormal investigators have that. You're just kind of always aware and on alert. And I started noticing that with my radio shows, especially when I would record with somebody beforehand, and then I would have to sit there when I was going live, even though I wasn't talking and my recorder was just going, just in case something went wrong. And I would just be hearing things left and right. And I'm a huge debunker. We've talked about this before. I know not everything's paranormal. If I hear something when I'm investigating, I'm going to say what it is, like a man coughing or dog barking or a car driving by. Because sometimes I don't hear my evidence until later on, sometimes months, I hate to admit. And it could really sound like something that it's not. And so, yeah, a lot of the times when I'm recording for the podcast too, I will hear these voices, and sometimes I'll hear them right away, but sometimes I won't until later. And it's just kind of like, wow, okay, we didn't hear that man talking beforehand. And sometimes I actually have to call the person and say, hey, did you have like your husband or uncle or grandpa or brother or somebody there, a gentleman? They're like, no, not at all. And so I have gotten EVPs before doing this, and it is interesting. And sometimes I don't have a guest with me. Sometimes I'm just like, I edit every single episode to take out the uhs and the ums and what have yous. And yeah, sometimes there will be a man right there as if he's talking right next to me. And I'm just like, well, I'll be darned. I'm by myself at home, and nobody should be here with me. So, but they are. They're always here.
They're always here. It's like, wow, I need to start listening to what I'm doing. I'm not listening. I'm actually not really an investigator. I'm just like an investigator of like what happened here. Like, because of what happened here and my clients and patients, I have to research and I want to know. But I really give kudos to you guys that, girls and guys that go out and actually do these investigations. And you have to be sharp. And so, I was really shocked when I was listening to the shows that you did. And I'm like, oh, my God, I did hear these things. But I didn't hear them when we were talking. Yeah, that's how it works.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so when I'm editing and I hear these voices coming through that weren't, shouldn't be there, I always just kind of let the people know you might want to use your headphones on this episode.
Right. And the headphones are a lot, you can hear a lot. You can usually hear a lot clearer with the headphones. Yeah. So how long have you been doing the paranormal investigations?
So it's been about 11, 12-ish years. That was investigating with tools, though. I've been a fan and supporter and a believer of the paranormal ever since I was a young child. From wanting, my mom said I was about 2 years old when we were in the car and we were driving and I was in my little car seat. And all of a sudden, I just start flailing my legs up saying, "Mommy, graveyard, me go." And she's like, how the hell do you even know what a graveyard is? Seriously. Like, how do you even know the name of that? And so from a very young age, I've been interested. And so before I even had my tools, I was going to places like Alcatraz and Winchester Mystery House and different locations like that where, and so it's always been in my blood, but with tools, it's been about 12 years.
Wow. And what did you say, tools?
Yeah, with a digital recorder.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, different equipment, the Ovilus, EMF meters, different things like that, yeah.
Oh, okay, the tools. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Wow, okay, so this is so cool. So before, it was just you and just being able to hear and see things, and then you started using the equipment. So what changed when you started using the equipment? Did you find that it picked up more for you, or were you just amazed? Because I'm amazed that I hear the voices in the house here on, Becky's the only one. Becky from Tucson Ghost Society is the one that has only come out here for this type of investigation, but it just blows me away every single time. What does it feel like to you when you actually catch something? And what was what are some of the most incredible finds that you've actually been able to get to gather the evidence?
Yeah, so evidence, it blows my mind. I feel like I'm a kid Christmas morning wanting to open my presents right away, and every single investigation is different. I go to Tombstone every year, and I go to the same places. I go to Birdcage. I go to Big Nose Kate's. I go to Watt and Tarbell Mortuary. And even though I go so many times, every investigation is different and special and unique. And the evidence is always different. And so I've gotten a lot of different things. I think EVPs have to be my favorite type of evidence. Every time I hear something that my ears didn't hear themselves and my debunker mouth didn't debunk, I go crazy. I just absolutely can't get enough of those EVPs. And also photographic evidence, in Tombstone, I've gotten a heck of a lot of it. I've gotten apparitions. I've gotten these manifestations starting to form. I've gotten a man's head that almost looks like this liquid form presence at the mortuary. I got an apparition of a woman who I believe was probably a soiled dove at the Birdcage Theater. I got a noose. We were being touched. And I got a picture of this red noose and this blue figure below it. And it looks so bizarre that people always ask, well, they had a prop there, right? No, Watt and Tarbell never had a noose prop. Not since I've been going every single year, and I asked them and they said, no, they haven't. And if they did, I sure would have debunked it, but no, it's just so intense to me getting this kind of evidence, these EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, and this photographic evidence. And yeah, like I said, kid for Christmas.
Yeah, and I've seen the pictures of the noose. You know, I've seen several of the pictures that you're talking about, and it's just incredible what you've been able to gather. And I really feel like you're one of those people that they just actually come to and are attracted to, and you're one of those your frequency is high, so you're somehow able to catch. You know, they seem to manifest, you know, pretty well for you.
Yeah, that could be a good thing and a bad thing for sure. I definitely am not a medium, but I am a sensitive. Definitely get those phantom smells. I hear things with my ears sometimes that other people can't hear. I'm not saying all the time, but, you know, sometimes it'll be a man whispering in my ear when I'm at an investigation, and I'll say, I just heard a man. Did anybody else hear that? And everyone's like, no. And then, yeah, that evidence. But I don't know. It's awesome. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I always say that I would be the most boring person in the world if I didn't work with the paranormal.
You have just heard part of the interview with Tessa Mauro from Paranormal Prowlers Podcast. Be sure to listen to the full interview over on Spreaker with the Web Radio Network. This is Mercedes, the Mercedes Lucke-Benedict Show. Thanks you so much for listening.